Hello. So, with everything else, I've forgotten to continue with our book Wonder, and we are almost through the book. So, I need to do a couple more recordings so that those of you that are actually interested have the opportunity to hear the rest of this book. This next chapter is called Sleep. Um, who's, I don't even know whose point of view we're talking about here. I think we are on Augie's point of view. We'll find out, I guess, as we read, because I don't want to spend the time flipping back. Um, then they came out of the narrow valley, and once she saw the reason, there stood Peter and Edmund and all of the rest of Aslan's army fighting desperately against the crowd of horrible creatures whom she had seen last night. Only now, in the daylight, they looked even stronger and more evil and more deformed. I stopped there. I'd been reading for over an hour and sleep still didn't come. It was almost 2 a.m. Everyone else was asleep. I had my flashlight under the sleeping bag. Okay, so we're with Augie. And maybe the light was why I couldn't sleep, but I was too afraid to turn it off. I was afraid of how dark it was outside of the sleeping bag. When we got back to our section in front of the movie screen, no one had even noticed we'd been gone. Mr. Tushman and Ms. Reuben and Summer and all the rest of the kids were just watching the movie. They had no clue how something bad had almost happened to me and Jack. It's so weird how that can be. How you could have a night that's the worst in your life, but to everyone else it's just an ordinary night. Like on my calendar at home, I would mark this as being one of the most horrific days of my life. This and the day Daisy died. But for the rest of the world, it was just an ordinary day. Or maybe it was even a good day. Maybe somebody won the lottery today. Amos, Miles, and Henry brought me back over to where we'd been sitting before with Summer and Maya and Reed, and then they went and sat where they'd been sitting before with Zemena, Savannah, and her group. In a way, everything was exactly as we had left it before when we were looking for the toilets. The sky was the same, the movie was the same, everybody's faces were the same, mine was the same. But something was different, something had changed. I could see Amos and Miles and Henry telling their group what had just happened. I knew they were talking about it because they kept looking over at me while they were talking. Even though the movie was still playing, people were whispering about it in the dark. News like that spreads fast. It was what everyone was talking about on the bus ride back to the cabins. All the girls, even girls I didn't know very well, were asking me if I was okay. The boys were all talking about getting revenge on the group of seventh grade jerks, trying to figure out what school they were from. I wasn't planning on telling the teachers about any of what had happened, but they found out anyway. Maybe it was the torn sweatshirt and bloody elbow, or maybe it was just because the teachers hear everything. When we got back to the camp, Mr. Tushman took me to the first aid office, and while I was getting my elbow cleaned and bandaged up by the camp nurse, Mr. Tushman and camp directors were in the next room talking with Amos and Jack and Henry and Miles, trying to get a description of the troublemakers. When he asked me about them a little later, I said I couldn't remember their faces at all, which wasn't true. It was their faces I kept seeing every time I closed my eyes to sleep. The look of total horror in the girl's face when she first saw me, the way the kid with the flashlight, Eddie, looked at me as he talked to me like he hated me, like a lamb to the slaughter. I remember Dad saying that ages ago, but tonight I think I finally got what that meant. Aftermath. Mom was waiting for me in front of the school along with all the other parents when the bus arrived. Mr. Tushman told me on the bus ride that he had called my parents to tell them there had been a situation the night before and that everyone was fine. He said the camp director and several of the counselors were looking for the hearing aid in the morning while we were all went swimming in the lake, but they couldn't find it anywhere. Borewood would reimburse the cost of any hearing aids, but he said they felt bad about what had happened. I wondered if Eddie had taken my hearing aids with him as a kind of souvenir. Something to remember the orc. Mom gave me a tight hug when I got off the bus, but she didn't slam me with questions like I thought she might. Her hug felt good, and I didn't shake it off like the other like some of the other kids were doing with their parents' hugs. The bus driver started unloading our duffel bags, and when I went to find mine, while Mom and talked to Mr. Tushman and Reuben, who had walked over to her. As I rolled my bag toward her, a lot of kids who don't usually say anything to me were nodding hello or patting my back as I walked by them. Ready? Mom said as she saw me. She looked at my duffel bag, and I didn't even try to hold on to it. I was fine with her carrying it. If she had wanted to carry me on her shoulders, I would have been fine with that too, to be truthful. As we started to walk away, Mr. Tushman gave me a quick, tight hug, but didn't say anything. Home. Mom and I didn't talk much the whole walk home, and when we got to the front stoop, I automatically looked at the front bay window because I forgot for a second that Daisy wasn't going to be there like always, perched on the sofa with her front paws on the windowsill, waiting for us to come home. It made me kind of sad when we walked inside. As soon as we did, Mom dropped my duffel bag and wrapped her arms around me, and kissed me on my head and on my face like she was breathing me in. Boy, that's we were talking about idioms. That's a great idiom. Breathing me in. Think about what that means. It's okay, Mom. I'm fine, I said, smiling. She nodded and took her face with her hands. My eyes were shiny. I know you are, she said. I missed you so much, Augie. I missed you too. I could tell she wanted to say lots of things, but she stopped herself. Are you hungry? She asked. Starving. Can I have a grilled cheese? Of course, she answered, and immediately started to make the sandwich while I took off my jacket and sat down at the kitchen counter. Where's Via? I asked. She's coming home with Dad today. Boy, did she miss you, Augie, Mom said. Yeah? She would have she would have liked that nature reserve. You know what movie they played? The Sound of Music. You'll have to tell her that. So do you want to hear about the bad part or the good part first? I asked after a few minutes, leaning my head on my hand. Whatever you want to talk about, she answered. Well, except for last night, I had an awesome time. I mean, I was just awesome. It was just awesome. Oh, excuse me. It's late. Not that late. We've just worked hard today. I mean, it was just awesome. That's why I'm so bummed. I feel like they've ruined the whole trip for me. No, sweetie, don't let them do that to you. You were there for more than you were there for more than 48 hours, and that awful part lasted 1 hour. Don't let them take that away from you, okay? I know, I nodded. Did Mr. Tushman tell you about the hearing aids? Yes, he called us. He called us this morning. Was Dad mad? Because they're so expensive. Oh my goodness. Of course not, Augie. He just wanted to know that you were all right. That's what matters to us, and that you don't let those thugs ruin your trip. I kind of laughed at the way she said the word thugs. What? She asked. Thugs, I teased. That's kind of an old-fashioned word. Okay, jerks, morons, imbeciles, she said, flipping over the sandwich in the pan. Cretinos, my mother would have said, whatever you want to call them. If I saw them in the street, I would. She shook her head. They were pretty big, Mom. I smiled. Seventh graders, I think. She shook her head. Seventh graders? Mr. Tushman didn't tell us that. Oh, my goodness. Did he tell you how Jack stood up for me? I said. And Amos was like, bam! He rammed right into the leader. I think Augie's pretty proud of that. They both crashed to the ground like a real fight. It was pretty awesome. Amos's lip was bleeding and everything. He told me there was a fight, but she said, looking at me with her eyebrows raised, I'm just, phew, I'm just so grateful you and Amos and Jack are fine. When I think about what could have happened, she trailed off, flipping the grilled cheese again. My Montauk hoodie got totally shredded. Well, that can be replaced, she said. She lifted the grilled cheese onto a plate and put the plate in front of me on the counter. Milk or white grape juice? Chocolate milk, please. I started devouring the sandwich. Oh, can you do it that special thing you do with it with the froth? How did you and Jack end up in the edge of the woods in the first place? She said, pouring the milk into a tall glass. Jack had to go to the bathroom, I answered, my mouth full. As I was talking, she spooned the chocolate powder and started rolling a small whisk between her palms really fast. But there was a huge line, and he didn't want to wait, so we went toward the woods to pee. She looked at me while she was whisking. I know she was thinking we shouldn't have done that. The chocolate milk is in the glass now with a 2-inch froth on top. That looks good, Mom. Thanks. And then what happened? She said, putting the glass in front of me. I took a long drink of that chocolate milk. Is it okay if we don't talk about it anymore right now? Oh, okay. I promise I'll tell you about the rest of it later when Dad and Via are home. I'll tell you all in every detail. I just don't want to have to tell the whole thing over and over. You know what I mean? Absolutely, she said. I finished my sandwich in 2 more bites and gulped down the chocolate milk. Wow, you practically inhaled that sandwich. Do you want another one? She said. I shook my head and wiped my mouth with the back of my hand. Mom, am I always going to have to worry about jerks like that? I asked. When I grow up, is it always going to be like this? She didn't answer right away, but took my plate and glass and put them in the sink and rinsed them with water. There are always going to be jerks in the world, Augie, she said, looking at me. But I really believe with Daddy, and Daddy really believes that there are more good people in this earth than bad people. And the good people watch out for the other people and take care of each other. Just like Jack was there for you, and Amos, and the other kids. Yeah, Miles and Henry, I answered. They were awesome too. It's weird because Miles and Henry haven't even really been very nice to me during the school year. Sometimes people surprise you, she said, rubbing the top of my head. I guess. Want another glass of chocolate milk? No, I'm good, I said. Thanks, Mom. Actually, I'm kind of tired. I didn't sleep good last night. You should take a nap. Thanks for leaving me, Boo-Boo. By the way, or Babu, by the way. You got my note? She smiled. I slept with him both nights. She was about to say something else when her cell phone rang and she answered. She started beaming as she listened. Oh my goodness, really? What kind? She said excitedly. Yep, he's right here. He was about to take a nap. Want to say hi? Oh, okay. Well, we'll see you two in 2 minutes. She clicked it off. That was Daddy, she said excitedly. He and Via are just down the block. He's not at work? I said. He left early because he couldn't wait to see you, he said, so don't take a nap quite yet. 5 seconds later, Dad and Via came through the door. I ran into Dad's arms and he picked me up and spun me around and kissed me. He didn't let go of me for a full minute until I said, Dad, it's okay. And then it was Via's turn, and she kissed me all over like she used to when I was little. It wasn't until she stopped that I noticed the big white cardboard box they had brought in with them. So what do you think's in the box? Should I stop right there? What is it? I said. Open it, said Dad, smiling, and he and Mom looked at each other as if they knew a secret. Come on, Augie, said Via. I opened the box, and inside, I'll have to pick up there tomorrow so you can learn what's inside the box. Start making your predictions.